Good afternoon, folks. This is Matthew Lindsay with Precision Home Group here in Anchorage. Now, it's a little bright today, a little sunny out through those windows, so I had to drop down the shades. But today we are coming to you, talking to you about investments, real estate investments. That's what we do every day, and it is January, so we're spending every day going through different types of investments. Now, we've been through several different types so far. It's only January 3rd, but we started this before the new year. So we talked about wholesaling properties, where people are buying contracts and trading them and trying to get that spread in the middle. We talked about flip properties yesterday, where people are looking to again keep that spread in the middle, where they buy low, put a lot of work into it, sell it at a profit, and they get to keep whatever margin that they had on top of whatever they put into the property for updates, fixes, labors, and such. So today we wanted to talk about kind of residential properties. This is going to be single units through fourplexes, but we're going to mostly focus on single family today. We're going to focus on just a single family home as an investment. Now, we've talked about the quick flip, the quick wholesale, and that is pertaining to that single family home. But today we're going to more talk about the keep and hold. Now, when we talk about real estate investments, when we talk about investing, we need to look at the whole picture. And what I mean by that is we need to understand what it is that you're looking to do. We need to understand what your investment strategy is. Because if I don't know big picture, what are you looking to do in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Then I can't sit there and analyze this one deal and tell you, hey, this is good investment strategy for you to fit, into that puzzle and make sure that second, third, fourth, and so on purchase really aligns and make sure that this first purchase is going to set you up for that second, and so on. So that's what we need to do, and that's what we're always going to talk about when you and I sit down and we talk first. We're going to look big picture. What is it that you're looking to do? What is it that you are investing for? Is that cash flow? Is that parking the money? Taxes? What is it? What are your requirements as an investor? So whenever we talk about investments, the second thing that we talk about is income. The biggest thing that people don't understand, the biggest thing that people don't realize when we're looking at investments is that don't invest on a budget, okay? And a lot of people are gonna be like, what are you talking about? Don't invest on a budget. Don't get into an investment because you can't afford it. Get into an investment because you decide that it is a great investment. It meets your standards, meets your requirements, and because of that, you're gonna pull the trigger on purpose, take action, and move forward on that investment, not because it just kind of slid across your desk. You're like, oh, I got some money, let's go for it. You want to be doing everything with a purpose and with a mission. And by doing so, you're going to make sure that you make great investment choices and that you're going to be able to invest for the long term and for what you're looking to do. When I bring up income, that plays into that by saying that, hey, we're not looking to invest on a budget. So without keeping it small, we're looking at properties with much larger initial investments to really start playing the game the right way. And so with that, we need to increase our income because you can only save so much money, right? You can only save so much, cut your expenses so much without raising that income up, without increasing your income through other sources. You're not necessarily going to be able to put more money aside. Yes, you can cut down, like I said, cut those expenses, but there's only so far you can go where you have to start realizing that you need to increase that income. So now we've talked about increasing that income. We've talked about don't be investing on a budget. Invest for the right opportunity. Invest for the right property because you made a decision to, not because you just came across a property that made sense and you had the money to do so. So single family homes and residential, small residential properties, are they great investments? And again, to answer that question is it depends. Does it fit into your strategy? I come from the belief that a single family home is not an investment. I believe single family home is just that. It's a home. People are looking to get into a home because that's what they've been told to do. That's what they've been raised to do. That's what society says, hey, grow up, get married, go to college, and get yourself in a ton of debt and park yourself in a home. And that may have worked for our parents, for our grandparents, for the generations before us who, literally stayed in a home for several years. who stayed in the same town, didn't go out, and that home was passed from generation to generation. You know, I have family members who have lived in their home their entire life. We have family members who have, you know, raised several generations in their home. And because of that, that home that they decided to purchase, it's paid off by now. They're living in there just for the expenses of the home and stuff like that. But in this day and age, we have so many people looking at purchasing homes and then moving in 2, 3, 4 years. And a lot of people are using very low down payment options. And because of that, they either pay zero down, and then they have to pay when they go to sell the home. They have to bring funds to the table because they don't have enough into it. Even though they may have put updates, they may have done repairs, they may have done everything else, and all the maintenance on the property, they don't have enough money into the property, enough equity to walk away without owing the bank money. And so these are the things that we want to talk about when we're looking at homes as investments. Now, if you're looking at purchasing a home as a home and saying, hey, I'm going to dwell here and I'm doing this on purpose, that's one statement. It's another statement to say, hey, we're going to use this as our home and it is an investment. That's lying to yourself, in my opinion. It really depends on all the things that go into it. You know, what's that down payment? What's that mortgage? What are you looking to do with that home? And at the end of the day, how many doors are there? And when I say doors, I'm looking at how many dwelling units are there in a single family home? One. So if you're using that as an investment, you're saying, hey, I'm going to rent this out. Well, some of the things you have to think about is, well, if that renter that you have in there, that lease expires and they move out, one person moves out and you're 100% vacant. 100%. No one's covering that rent. With more doors, it kind of cuts down your risk there to whereas you're, you know, kind of, you have somebody else paying, someone else helping with that mortgage, with the expenses, with the utilities, with the maintenance, with the repairs, with the upkeep of the property. Not to mention, we haven't even talked about, you know, cash flow at this point, where a lot of people think that they're cash flowing, but realistically, even if we look at just the mortgage and just what the renters are paying, you may have a little bit, 100, 200, maybe a couple $100 of cash flow, if you will, on top of that payment, but you still have expenses, utilities, repairs, maintenance, vacancies you got to keep in mind. You have those long-term repairs like the furnaces, you have the roofs, you have all these different things that you're not accounting for. And then the time and energy put into actually marketing that home to get it leased up, marketing that home to get someone in there, what you're paying for the credit checks, the background checks, and everything else that goes into that property. And all that is said and done for one door. And again, more doors breaks down that risk of you losing 100% of that rental for a month if that renter leaves, that lease expires, and stuff like that. The other thing that that I find and that I run across as a realtor all the time is that people, you know, they get to a point where they want to sell their home. They've only been in there for a couple of years and they can't because they don't have the funds to bring to the table. Now, a lot of people, they think, okay, I'm going to rent the home out and then, you know, we'll sell it in a couple of years. However, they don't have any experience renting homes out, so it's more of a forced landlord at that point. Now, a lot of people, they just see their pocketbook. Again, going back to that budget, right? They see their pocketbook, they see themselves writing checks for that mortgage every month, and at this point in time, if they've moved out, they're either looking at double mortgages or a rental payment and their mortgage, and so they're looking frantically. After a couple months of writing out those two checks, they're just frantically ready to get somebody into that property. So now we have this vacant property. They're just looking for anybody to get into it. And once they find someone to walk through and say, yes, I will take that, what I find is that a lot of people aren't running the proper background checks, aren't running the proper credit checks, aren't doing reference calls, aren't doing what they should be doing to put a quality tenant in there and taking their time, rather than just putting somebody in there that seems like a nice person. And what we've ran into with this is we just had a couple properties we got on the market and sold recently, but that owner had to actually put quite a bit of money. We're talking $20,000, $30,000 into the property, worth of repairs, worth of things to go into the property, bring it back to the standard that it was when they were living in there, so that we could sell it for fair market value, and so that they could walk away from it without owing the bank any money. So these are just a couple of the reasons why I believe that single family homes are not investments. Yes, you do pay down that mortgage. Yes, there are some tax advantages, but if you're not looking at the whole picture and saying, hey, where is the cash flow, where is things going, and looking at all the expenses, the time that you put into it, the repairs you put into it, the maintenance that you put into it, the updates that you put into it, and everything else, it just doesn't make sense. And I've seen way too many people having to bring money to the table to get out of a home. So that's why we here at Precision Home Group, why we help educate, we share information, and why we always advocate for multiple doors when we're looking in more of a residential investment for real estate. And so when it is residential, when it is an investment, we want you guys to be in more doors than not. 16 doors minimum is what we say, but I'd love to see you above that 20 doors. And how is it that we're going to get you in there? Again, going back to the beginning of this video, that's going to be with increasing your income. We got to find ways to increase your income. We got to find ways to put that money aside, and we got to find ways to stockpile that up in order to use it for an investment. Now, last thing I want to talk about is if you are one of these people that say, hey, we are cash flowing a couple $100 a month and it's just not a headache and we don't have to worry about it, what else could you do for a couple $100 a month? There's MLMs, maybe work a couple extra hours at work. If you're in sales, maybe you close one more sale. You know, there's a lot of other ways that you can make a couple $100, even $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. There is tons of ways to make that without being in real estate and without the risks involved with that, without the risks of, you know, the maintenance, the tenants, and everything else. A lot easier way to make that money, and I would encourage you to look at those ways before you go try and invest into another single family. So if you have any questions about this, do reach out. Do give me a call, shoot me a text at 907-302-1011, or you could just drop a DM, send me a DM, drop a comment, hit that like, and I appreciate you guys following, engaging, and tuning in. We'll be here tomorrow. We're gonna start talking about some multifamily investment properties. We're gonna talk about the ins, the outs, the pros, the cons. We're gonna talk about why I love multifamily so much, and really just start digging deep into that, spend a couple of days on it, and then we're gonna jump into more commercial properties next week. So again, thank you for your time. I enjoy you guys being here, and we'll see you tomorrow.